What's going on, everybody? YL from RebelEars.com. We are here for our weekly live every Wednesday between 3 and 3:30 p.m. We go live. Today, we are talking about reverb and delays. Time-based effects is the topic for today. All right, give me a second. I want to just go in here and just get rid of a few things so we don't have any distractions and so you guys can see the waveform in the actual session a little bit better. I'm not, as you can see, the session is blank, no plugins. This is a session that I did maybe 2 years ago. Um, it is not out yet, so this is just something. That's why I don't have anything mixed or anything like that. I will be very limited on as far as what you guys can hear. I don't want to leak the song, but I do want to be able to show you guys examples of reverb and delay or reverberation. All right, so give me a second. I'm gonna take some inserts out. Uh, we don't need them, like I said before. I just wanna. We don't need IO. Everything is already routed, as you can see. Um, the vocal tracks are routed to hook. The hook tracks are routed to the hook. The vocal tracks are routed to the Vox. Okay, so this is what I'll do just for organization purposes. For those who are watching and really don't know what they're looking at, I'll change the color of the hook. So the hooks are now pink. Okay, all the hook tracks, which will be here, are all pink. And I'm probably gonna just mainly do the hooks itself just to show you guys different uh, examples and different things that we're gonna do with reverb and delay today. All righty. All right, so let's get into it, man. Let's talk about reverb first. We'll go reverb first. I feel like reverb is more complex than delay. I feel like once you understand beats and measures and tempo and different things like that, delay should be pretty simple. Um, okay, so for the most part, we'll get into reverb. Okay, so reverb is short for reverberation. Reverberation is basically all the sounds that you hear outside of the original sound, right? So basically, a reverb would be a lot of different. Um, Let me see the best word I can use for this. It would be a lot of different sounds, a lot of different versions of sounds that hit the ear at different times. They also hit the ear at different volumes and different amplitudes. Okay. So, like you know, a good demonstration or example would be, say, if you were inside of a tunnel or a train tunnel, right? I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this description and this example a lot of times, right? You scream into a tunnel, hey, or you scream into the Grand Canyon or anything that has a lot of space, right? So, depending on how many echoes you hear and depending on how fast that you hear them, depends on the space. So reverberation is based off of time. Okay, this is why it's called a time-based effect. It's based off of time and it's based on your room size, how big the room you're in or the space that you're in. Okay. When you're dealing with reverberation or you're dealing with reverb, it can be used to add space. It can be used to add kind of a lot of depth to certain sounds. Um, different intensities into certain sounds and different things like that. But it also can be overused where it can make vocals harder to understand. It can also, kind of make certain instruments like guitars and snare drums, if you use too much of that reverb, you'll hear too much space in that sound. So, recap real quick, your reverb is the sounds that you hear outside of the major sound, the main signal. right? So a lot of reverbs deal with echoes and different things like that. Now, like I said before, this is a time-based effect. So time-based effects are usually built off of time, how fast, how slow, how many times, different things like that. Is also built off of how big your space is. These different sounds outside of the main sound can hit our ear, like I said, by the thousands. Depending on how big your room is, that echo or that space or that ambient sound, we like to call it ambiance, that sound can hit your ear 80 times at different times for all 80 sounds, right? So it's more kind of like an echo due to time and space. Okay. All right. So what we want to do now, we can talk about the different types of reverb or the different parameters. Let's talk about the different parameter of reverb. It's a lot of parameters. Let me pull this reverb plugin up for you guys. As you can see, I don't have anything on my verb box. This is a very simple template. I have not mixed this song. This was just a recorded template. This is my recording template, something that we recorded a few years ago. All right. One of my favorite reverbs is the H reverb long. I love the H reverb long because it has every parameter that you can account for or that you can imagine. All right. So before we get into actually working and showing the different types of reverbs, or the different parameters of the reverbs, you see you got pre-delay, build up, size, tail, driveway, output, reverb time. We can expand and show other things. Let's get into the types of reverb. Okay, so when you say the type of reverb, it'll be something similar to this, right? So you have hall reverb. As you can see here, I have halls highlighted. All right. This is a type of reverb. Usually depicts anything from like a cathedral or a big church. They're usually huge reverbs, and they usually have a long decay, which means the vibration and the echoes that come out of that reverb, they usually tend to hold on for a long time. Okay, so those are hall reverbs. Hall reverbs are great for kind of adding depth to small, soft instruments like violins, or uh, you might have a very low cello in the mix and you want to kind of bring it out and you want to kind of thicken it up. These are great. Uh, a hall reverb would be great for those type of things. Okay. So the next thing is a chamber reverb. As you see, I have reverb chamber here, chambers. As you see, I have that highlighted. And the positive thing about chamber reverbs are usually, they kind of have a ambient soak sound, right? But they give you kind of like an extra dose of clarity type of deal. Um, a little bit clearer than hall reverbs. Chamber reverbs are great on vocals, definitely great on background vocals. I love using chamber style reverbs on vocals itself. Okay. Another type of reverb would be uh, room reverbs. As you can see here, I have the room reverb highlighted. So your room is basically based on the size of your room, right? So they don't really mimic like a real acoustic space, right? It's kind of an artificial reverb. So dealing with different rooms, let me see if I can bring up another reverb for you guys actually. So let's bypass this one. I kind of want to show you the different kind of rooms. So this is the H reverb plugin. This is a Waves plugin. We'll get back to that when I'm getting into explaining and showing you guys and letting you guys listen to the different kinds of sounds that they come with. Okay, let's go into True Reverb. I like the True Reverb. This is also a Waves plugin. As you see here, where my mouse is, where the cursor is, you can see that I'm circling room size. Okay, so this is where it comes in. Like I said before, it's not really um genuine or organic ambient sound. This is something that's usually digital, usually mimics. It's kind of artificial, if that makes sense. So as you can see, we can change the reverb room size. Remember, just like the hall reverb, the bigger the room, the bigger your decays are going to be, the bigger and wider and uh, thicker your reverb will be. Okay. So you can always adjust your room size here. The smaller it is, the smaller your room size is, the quicker those reverberations and those echoes get back to the ear. Okay. Um, that is room reverb. And like I said before, guys, I'm just doing a quick synopsis of it. I always, um, promote self education. I also want to show you guys this. So another type of reverb is the spring reverb. All right. So these are kind of unique. Um, for the most part, they operate close to another reverb that we're gonna go to. All right. But for the most part, so what happens is your reverb happens, and then the effect or the like cause and effect type of deal, right? The cause is the reverb itself reacting off of the original sound, and you get those reverberations, you get those echoes off of the major sound. The effect of that is it's kind of like a spring effect, right? So where the echoes and the reverbs they spring out to you. All right, as you can see here, this is called the spring reverb, but air. This is an air plugin. I don't use it a lot. I used to use it a lot. Like I said before, I'll go through these different types of parameters and different types of sounds of reverbs in a while. Um, and at the end of the day, like spring reverbs, in my opinion, especially when I use them a lot, I thought they sound great on background vocals, ad libs, different things like that. It kind of has like a spring out at you effect. Like they hit you a little harder, in my opinion. They hit you a little harder than the other types of reverbs, harder than the halls and the room in the plates. Okay. So the next reverb and in the chambers, I mean, the next reverb is actually called a plate reverb. Okay. So let me see if I can find a plate reverb for you guys. Mm, 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 mm. Okay. So you have plates here. All right. So the thing with plate reverbs, and these are just presets that are saved into the H reverb. Like I said, it's a Waves plugin. That's how I'm just showing you guys the different kinds, right? So the plate reverb is not really similar to the hall reverbs and the chamber reverb. These is probably to me the most common to use on lead vocals. All right. They don't really mimic a real world acoustic space. Um, these are also the plate reverbs are probably most common because they're one of the first artificial type reverbs that we've used in the music industry and the production industry. All right. So they use like a magnetic driver. So the thing about using digital plate reverbs is it's kind of like when you get your reverberation or your echoes or whatever you want to call it, your ambiance of that room is kind of emulating a room that's full of metal, right? Like a metal plate, right? So if you had like a metal tin drum, right, and you hit that metal tin drum on the inside, they go all the way around and they play all the way around into that metal tin drum, you hear different reverbs with different notes, right? That reverb is a little bit more metallic, I guess you can say, because a plate reverb is used from metal plates. So using it digital wise, like if we was to use it in a plug-in, it would give you more of a metallic type of sound. Okay, so these are the different types of reverb. The different types. Let's go over them one more time. We have hall reverbs. All right. We have chamber reverbs. we have spring reverbs, we have plate reverbs, and then we have the room reverb. Okay, and these different types of reverbs, uh, you can apply to different instruments. Like I said before in the last video about compression and EQ, vocals are considered an instrument. It is an analog instrument. So you have five different types of reverbs that you can use, from guitars to drums to vocals to all of those different types of acoustic instruments. All right. Analog instruments, or however you want to put it. It's all the same. Um, Sometimes I don't it really depends. Like, I love using reverb on vocals, which is probably the most common thing. A lot of the times your booth, your mic, your recording setup can give you natural reverbs, a natural ambiance. It's just like I said before, if you go to the Grand Canyon and scream into the Grand Canyon, it's going to give you a type of reverb. If you go into a train tunnel, it's going to give you a type of reverb. If you go into a a car tunnel, will give you a different reverb because it's made out of different products. And this is where your room and different things like that come in. All right. So now I think we should go through the different parameters of a reverb. All right. So the first thing that we have would be your reverb time or your reverb length. Depending on the plugin you use, this is your reverb time. Okay. That The reverb time means how long will the reverb last. Okay. So with the vocals, a lot of times I like to go with kind of like a shorter. It depends. Like verses, um, if it's a lead verse and somebody's really rapping and I like to go with a short reverb time because I don't want that reverb to stick around for so long. Okay, so let's do a quick example. Let's do a quick example on reverb time. This is where we get into just, I'm gonna highlight this hook. I'm actually gonna mute the rest of the tracks. Like I said before, there are no plugins on this. This is extremely raw. I'm not showing you guys this for how good it can sound. I'm just showing you guys this so how to use reverb in your mixes. Okay. All right. So we're gonna highlight the hook. We're gonna play the hook with no reverb. We're gonna bypass this. Let me actually move my verb up here this way. Okay, boom. We're gonna put it right up under, and then we're actually gonna move our delay aux. Just quick second, how I want to actually talk about with you guys really quickly, while I get things in order. You always, in my opinion, at least 95% of the time, you want to put your time-based effects on auxes. You want to create sub mixes for these type of uh plugins or these type of effects. I wouldn't suggest putting a reverb plugin directly on this vocal track, right? So this would be my vocal track right here. As you see, I've highlighted this pink track that says hook. I would not, if I go into my inserts, into my plugins, I would not place a reverb directly on that track. It might work for background vocals, it might work for ad libs, certain instruments. But the reason why I always put it on the aux, and I usually have, when I get to mixing, I usually have three or four different kinds of reverb. Um, but I like to put them on auxes because, as you see here, right, this is the track that we're using, the hook track right here. Once you send it and put it on the aux, I can control how much reverb that I'm allowing to come in. All right, so we're gonna put this thing at unity, which is at 0. Okay, negative 0.1 decibel is close enough to 0. All right, it's close enough to unity. All right, so let's see what the hook sounds like with no reverb whatsoever. And we're actually, as I'm doing this, I'm going to kind of build a acceptable sound. It probably won't be the sound that I would take mixing wise, but it'll be enough to give you guys an example on how to use the reverbs and how to shape the reverb. All right. So let's go here. Let's go back up to our hook track. All right, so we're here. Reverb plugin is here. Now we're gonna start off with a very, very, very short reverb time. Let's see what it sounds like. All right, give me a second. Let me try to turn this up so you guys can hear it. All right, give me a second. There we go. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. All right, so you guys should be able to hear uh, the vocals now. Apologies. All right, well, let's try it again. Let's let it go through. Well, actually, mute the delays. The hook is going to the hook. Try to make sure, okay, we don't have anything going on there. I just kind of want to be as raw as possible. All right, so let's bypass. Let's say we bypass the reverb and let's listen to the track itself. All right, so one more time. This is dry, no reverb. All right. So now you hear it as dry as possible. All right. Now, this is what I also want to do because beforehand you heard a lot of reverb. The reason why you heard a lot of reverb is because I have the sin turned up so far. So we're gonna turn this sin down. We're gonna turn this sin all the way down. All right, and let's listen to it one more time. Dry. All right. So now let's mess with the reverb time a little bit. All right. So we're gonna bypass. We're gonna unbypass uh, the reverb, which means we're gonna bring it into effect now, and we're gonna unmute the sin. We'll probably boost the sin to like maybe like I don't know negative 39.8 decibels. Okay. That way we're not letting a whole lot of reverb in because I want to show you guys the difference from the plugin itself and not the sin. Okay, we'll talk about sins and returns and different things like that on another episode. All right. So as you can see, we got a little signal here coming out of our reverb. Can't really hear a lot of reverb. So as you can see, we'll probably leave it at like, yeah, we'll put it at 30. We'll put it at negative uh 29.7 decibels. That way we'll get a little bit better sound, a little bit more reverb coming in so we can see the difference. All right, let's get rid of that. That'll work. All right. So you see we have a short reverb time, 0.12 seconds. All right. A lot of the time-based effects move in seconds, milliseconds, beats and bars, different measures, different things like that. Remember, it's time-based, so it does move off of time. So our reverb is literally only sticking around for 0.12 seconds. Now, to the human ear, if something happened in 0.12 seconds, you probably wouldn't even get to hear it, right? Because it's so fast. It's so quick. It's so fast. It's not even, it's only a tenth of a second. By the time you count the one, 10 of those reverbs would have came through. Okay. So we're going 0.12, a tenth of a second. All right, that is our reverb time. That's how long that our reverb sticks around. Like I said before, to the human ear, to the common ear, you won't hear it. Now let's just turn it up a little bit, right? And remember, we are working with reverb time. We're going over the parameters of reverb. So let's say we go to 12 seconds. As you can see, do you hear how long that reverb sticks around? You hear that, right? You hear how it's echoing, is like you can barely hear the vocals. Remember, I was telling you, adding too much reverb to vocals can destroy them. All right, let's hear that one more time at 12 seconds. That's how long our reverb is sticking around. 12 seconds. And even if thou stop, you still hear that reverberation. All right. So that reverb kind of sounds like a plate reverb. I'm not sure which one it is because we're default here. Um, so you have different kinds of plates. You have large plates, warm plates, different things like that. But it kind of reminds me of a plate reverb. That's what it sounds like to me. Okay. All right, now let's turn this thing down. As we play it, I want you guys to hear how the reverb of time affects the reverb sound. Remember, everything else here is defaulted out. All the rest of the parameters are defaulted. We're just dealing with the reverb time. I want to show you guys how important and how serious it is to be able to understand how long you want your reverb to stick around. All right, we're at 12. Let's go down to 8. As you still see, it's still long. This is where your reverb stops, but then you still have a tail. This is your tail here. This is still your reverb is still going on for a good second. All right, but it's not so present. The echo and the space of the reverb is not so present because we're turning the reverb time down. We're not allowing the reverb to be present for 12 seconds. Now we're at 8 seconds. Let's drop it down to 4 seconds and see what happens. You see, once I hit pause or once I stop it, the reverb kind of shuts off a little faster. It's not, the tail is not as long as the reverb is not going so long. You can kind of understand the vocals a little bit better. It kind of sounds a little bit better. Still way too much reverb, right? But you can understand the lower your reverb time is, the clearer and the less amount of reverberation you're gonna allow to continue to tail on. All right. Like I said before, I don't think I would ever use a reverb time of 12. Right. But the great thing about digital is they give you so many parameters and they give you so much space and to find where you want to live at inside of these different parameters. Okay, so we're gonna go back down to 4. We heard 4. All right, let's compare one more time. 8. Reverb just cut off just then. All right, let's try it again. Reverb just cut off. As you can see here, if you pay attention to the signal here, it shows you where the reverb cuts off. All right, now let's go to 4 again. You see the reverb shut off a whole lot faster. Okay, those echoes and those different sounds shut off a whole lot faster. Remember, the definition of reverberation or reverb are all the sounds outside of the main sound, right? So the main sound would be the vocal itself, right? All of that you hear after and in the background and all around those main vocals will be your reverberation. All right, so let's bring it down to 1 second. Let's bring it down to 1 second. Boom. Now let's listen to it. Shuts down even faster. It's like I said before, pay attention to your signal here. You can see that reverb is getting up out of there really quickly. All right. So with that said, I hope you can kind of see the difference between um, your reverb time, long and short. All right. I'm going to bring this send down a little more. We're going to put it at -20, and we're going to do this again. So you hear that. So right now we're still at 1 second, right? Reverb time is very fast. It comes and goes very soon. And within 1 second, the reverb appears and disappears. All right. So let's listen to it. You see the reverb almost cut off exactly when we press stop, almost. All right. One more time for the reverb time. We're going to go to 4. And you still kind of get like a little tiny little very small tail. All right, and let's go all the way back to 12 just so we can see this again and then move on. Boom. If you listen, it takes about 3 to 4 seconds for that reverb to kind of die out after we press pause. Right, so it's kind of like an echo, kind of like that type of deal. All right, so we're gonna bring our reverb time back down, something that makes sense. Usually, I like to use, especially in a rap. We'll go about like 3.6 or something. All right. The next thing that we want to get into is pre-delay. All right. The pre-delay right here, as you can see, is this parameter. It determines how quickly the reverb starts. Okay. After the triggering sound, right? So your triggering sound would be your initial signal, right? So your pre-delay would be how long will it take for my reverb to kick in? Right on the last video, we was talking about dynamic plugins. We were talking about compression. We were talking about EQing. So in compression, your attack will be kind of similar to your pre-delay. Your attack will let you know how fast your compressor kicks in. How fast will it start compressing? Boom, right? Off the initial signal. So the pre-delay will be the same thing off of the initial signal, which is the hook, the recorded things that we have. How fast will the reverb hit? Will it hit soon as you hear the first word, the first note, or will the reverb kind of come a little later, maybe by the second or third word or note? All right. So let's try that. All right, we're gonna turn the pre-delay all the way down. All right. Now, as I play it this time, I'm gonna move the pre-delay up, and you should be able to hear how the reverb is kind of slowing itself up before it really connects. All right, with the main signal. Now, right there, you can hear the initial vocal is a little bit clearer. You hear a little less reverb on that initial vocal. Just keep turning it up. And then you also hear the tail at the end, right? Because the reverb starts later, so the reverb will finish a little bit later because we're bringing in we're bringing in the reverb a few steps behind the actual sound, right? So you can kind of use pre-delays as like if you want to change it and you want to switch it and you want to go drastic with it, like how I have it turned all the way up here, you can kind of use it as a delay effect or some type of echo type effect, right? All right, so that is your pre-delay. Pretty simple, man. Let's play it again at 0. You hear the reverb hitting directly, like it's just like it's almost like the reverb is a part of those vocals. Which it which is not, because I'm bypassing it now and now you don't hear it. Right? And now you hear the reverb, right? And directly as soon as the every word that she's saying, you can hear the reverb in that. Okay. Now let's push it all the way back again. So as you can hear, or if you heard that right before I was about to open my big mouth, the reverb came in a little slower, came in a little later, and it also ended a little later. Also, all right. So that is your pre-delay. We're gonna set our pre-delay for something that makes sense. Probably about 50. Let's go 55, and that's probably a little bit too high. So actually, let's go like 30 on the pre-delay. All right. So your next parameter will be your early reflections, which you see here, ER or tail. Early reflections and tail means the same thing. All right. So these are the first reflections heard after the audio starts. So this is the initial first sound of the reverb itself. The tail is the decay of the reverb after, right? So your early reflections will be the first sound that you hear after the reverb itself. The tail would be like a decay. So the tail and the decay are the same things. In some plugins it'll say decay, some plugins it'll say tail. This is how long that you're allowing the reverb to continue on. This is how long you're allowing the reverb to continue on. I'm actually gonna do reverb today because reverb is so extensive, guys. And we will definitely get to delay on another episode, but I definitely want to get this reverb down for you guys. All right, so early reflections. Let's hear it. Let's see if we turn early reflections all the way down on the reverb, right? Remember, early reflections are the first reflections that you hear after the initial signal, right? So it's not too far from a pre-delay, right? Because your pre-delay uh allows you to see how quickly the reverb starts after the triggering sound. Like when does it kick in? Boom. And then your early reflections allow the first echoes or the first reflection is the first part of the reverberation. After it kicks in, how long do we want it to be heard? Or how fast do we want it to be heard? And then your tail is how long do we want it to be heard? Okay. So this is kind of like a joint parameter. Like I said before, in some reverbs, like okay, let's see. Exactly. So in this True Verb, which is also a Waves plugin, I love True Verb. Also, so many different parameters, so many different things that you can do out here. As you can see, all these different buttons that we won't get into. But as you can see, you have a decay time here, and you have a pre-delay here by itself. So your decay time, you see, if I raise that up to 100 right here, you will see that this is how long that reverb will travel. All right, so let's go back to the other one though. I'm gonna bypass these two plugins and go back to the H reverb. This is my favorite one because of the parameters. All right, so let's hear it without any really early reflections or no tail. Let's see what it sounds like. Now pay attention. It's very clear. It's not a lot of reverberation going on. Um, you still see we have our reverb time set here, right? We have our pre-delay set very low because for me myself, I don't really boost my pre-delay unless I'm dealing with certain instruments, backgrounds, different things of that nature. When I'm dealing with leads, I kind of want that reverb to hit when it's supposed to hit, right? I don't want to throw too much of an off effect on the vocals because I need the vocals to be as clear and as full and as present, and the ambience of those vocals have to sit just right. All right. And like I said before, this is just my personal opinion. Everybody mixes differently. Find your niche and stick with it. Um, but as you see, we have a short pre-delay, short reverb time. We have the early reflections in the tail turned all the way down, and you really barely hear reverb, right? Don't worry about the sin. The sin is where it should be pretty much to where we'll be able to hear differences in reverbs. Okay. So let me get rid of this actually so you don't get distracted. All right. So again, all right, boom. So your early reflections is all the way down, your tail is all the way down, which means the initial reflection that's coming out of that reverb is very, 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 very low. It's coming fast. It's coming very fast. So you don't have such a big reverb anymore. You don't have such a big echo anymore or a late echo, right? You can't really tell that the echo or the reverb or the ambiance is there because we turned the early reflections all the way down. Now to mention, like I said, this is a joint parameter. You have early reflections and your tail. So we have the tail turned down also. You really don't hear the reverb lasting long, which is why it almost sounds like it's not really that much reverb in these vocals. Now let's try to turn it up halfway and then all the way and let's see the difference. And now at 50%, you can kind of hear you can kind of hear a little bit more reverb, even that tail on the end. Let's listen to it again. I'm gonna press pause and then listen to the tail after the song stops. You can still hear a little tail in the reverb. So you still hear that kind of ambiance, okay? So I feel like when I deal with my early reflections and my tails, I kind of like to let it live here for lead vocals, especially rappers. When we get into singers and backgrounds and different genres, you will move the tail up. Let's move it all the way up and let's see the difference. All right. So as you can hear, you hear slightly a little bit more reverb. The reverb is a little longer. It doesn't cut out so fast. All right. So that's the tail. Your early reflections in your tail. All right, we're gonna bring that. Let's just bring that back to about 60. Remember, I'm not mixing. I'm just putting things in place to where it would sound right. All right. So now you have the size of your reverb. The size of the reverb is basically emulating how much space you have for your reverb to work, right? Maybe like a room size. Okay, remember we were talking about room reverb and different types of reverb. The size will tell you how big your reverb is going to be. Remember, the bigger the room, the bigger the space, the bigger the reverb, the bigger the echoes, the bigger the reverberation that is going to come to you. All right, so let's turn the size all the way down real quick. All right, so you can see we got our tail set up here. We have our pre-delay set up here. We have our reverb time set up here. Now we're gonna go into the size. All right, now the size is all the way down. Now let's kind of bring the size up of the room and let's see if we can hear the difference in having a smaller size reverb and a larger size reverb. All right. So as you can see, the reverb is slightly fuller. Um, the reverb is, you can kind of hear it a little bit heavier, a little bit more in depth with a bigger size reverb. Let's hear it again. All right. Now let's try to bring it down a little bit. Now see if we can tell the difference again. Remember, A and B is always a good thing when you're mixing. You want to hear what it sounds like before you add what you add, and you want to hear what it sounds like after, because it has to sound better. After you add a plugin and you subtract some things or you add some things to that initial sound, it has to sound better. All right. So make sure that you're A being, a lot of times when I build my reverbs and different things like that, I like to extend all of the parameters. I pull them all the way up. And as I drag them back down, I'm able to say, okay, I want it to live there. Right. I start drastically and then I come all the way back down. All right. So let's hear it again. So your size is 2. Okay. And now we bring it down. So as you can see, the smaller the size gets, the more clear it gets. And the better you can hear it. So like I said before, play with your different parameters in your reverb, and then you'll be able to get the sound that you're looking for. The next part of the reverb that we're gonna go into is we're gonna go straight into all right, so this is something that I want to show you guys real quick. Like this is kind of not like really I mean, it's important to me. I can show you guys other things, but we're about to wrap up in a while. I want to show you guys this damping. All right. So when you're damping reverb, what you're doing is you're really just kind to you're really just trying to bring down different frequencies, right? So you can EQ reverb. This is why I love this reverb right here. This is the H reverb, right? If you don't have the H reverb, you probably have the R verb, which is Renaissance, which is waves, or you have the D verb, and other different reverbs that come with Pro Tools. But you should definitely try to get this plug in here, because as you can see, you're able to affect your decay here. You have your input echoes, output echoes. You have a dynamic situation for your reverb. You can EQ your reverbs. Okay, this is the best thing that I love. I even EQ reverbs outside of this reverb plugin. I will usually add another EQ plugin here to just kind of get a better parameters on EQing my reverb. So your damping situation is basically like EQ. You're dealing with frequencies, and basically this is the softness, right? So you're trying to dampen something, you're trying to soften it up, right? So let's just say you have somebody with a very low pitched voice. You don't want to take too much of their lows out of their actual voice, the frequency. You don't want to EQ their voice. You don't want to take a lot of lows out, because that's a lot of their depth and their body of their voice. You might be able to come in and just dampen your reverb, right? You can dampen the reverb of that voice in a lower frequency to kind of pull out some of those resonant frequencies reverb wise, okay? Versus having to do it in the actual EQ on the actual track with the actual vocal itself. You can shape your reverbs to sound however you want to sound, okay? All right, so we're going to go back up here to dry wet. So your dry wet is how much of the dry signal, which is no reverb, right? So this would be our dry signal, bypass reverb. And this will be our wet signal. You guys should be able to hear the difference in the signal, right? So the good thing about this plugin, and which I love about a lot of reverb plugins that you can do, you can turn down how much wetness, right? So let's like the wetter it is, of course, the more reverb you're getting. This is kind of like a master parameter for all of these other parameters that we just went over, right? So once you build your reverb into how you want it, you got your time, your size, your pre-delay. So your build up is basically how fast or how slow that your reverb actually builds up to the full reverb. Similar to pre-delay, similar to early reflections. Most reverb plugins don't have this parameter, so we won't jump into it too much. But your dry wet, right? Let's listen to it all the way dry. You barely hear any reverb. Why? Because it's dry, right? So wet wise, if we turn it all the way up, we just made the signal a whole lot wetter, right? So you hear more reverb. Okay. And output is pretty much simple. This is just adjusting the overall level of the reverb itself. It's just kind of like the scene that we have going on over here. We adjust how much reverb we want to let out. Same thing with the output. With that said, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up right now. We are big on self-education, and we have podcasts, blogs, we have different lives and a lot of different things that you guys can go to the website to check out, do your own research, find your niche, stick with it, find your sound. With that said, don't forget to subscribe. This was a quick live. I hope you learned something. I hope I was able to show you something new. I really hope you guys love the Age of Reverb plugin because I love it. Hit the notification bell. Make sure that you're getting those alarms from when we go live and from when we post new things. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Let us know how you really feel. If you have any ill feelings about the information, we can always get in tune with you guys, and we can always give you a better explanation of what we were talking about. Last but not least, go to rebelears.com. Rebelears.com. Right now, we have 2 free ebooks that will help your next session, guaranteed. Very free. We have a free mixing template that goes with both of those ebooks. Free templates. You can't fix it. You can't beat it. Like I said before, this is just a simple recording template. You can see I have my routing here. All of my hook tracks are routed to the hook aux, which is down here, which will be there. And then all of the verse auxes are routed to the verse. The verse tracks are routed to the verse aux. This is a free template for you guys. All you have to do is plug and play. Free 2 ebooks that'll help your next session. We got 2 packs for sale right now that you guys need to go ahead and go check out. I think one for $11.99, one for $14.99. We have our blogs on there. Our podcast is on there. Rebelears.com. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let us know how you feel about this live. Let us know how you feel about the last few lives. Pay attention to the YouTube. Make sure you hit that noti button, get notified because we have a lot on the way, guys. Again, this is YL of rebelears.com. Go to the website, download the free stuff. YouTube is free. The website is free. Go get it. I'm out. Whew.